It's as the firm that they want to use. They were just looking for a firm with all the professionals, and whoever is leading is not even interested. We were taught that architects must lead. Now, the system is no longer so. Architects are no longer leading. I was also on a project, and in fact, that's evaluation. It wasn't an architectural firm I won. It was actually a quantity surveying team. Because in their expression of interest that was published, they did not state they were looking for an architectural firm. They stated they were looking for a professional firm. And then in the details, the firm must just contain all the professionals. And so that quantity, it was a big debate, but the clients stood their ground. And of course, it's their project. No matter what we did, they took up the job. So we are actually losing ground. There is a whole lot of challenge up there. There were projects we know that were led by auditors who have become project managers. So beyond architecture, you may even want to go and do serious project management and be certified so that you so remain at the top. As I said, keep opening your mind as we talk about all this. And of course, the internet is there now, disrupting everything. We say do not advertise as a professional, but then we still advertise anyway. There are drawings online. Allowed? They are there. So how do we solve all the issues? So there are issues that talk about kind of an attack on the profession, and then some that we say kind of make us monopolistic, and we may take advantage of our colleagues, our clients. Okay. Now, the discussion around the issue of professionalism is what's taking us into regulation. Let's look briefly at the Hammurabi law. We did that in school. Yeah. This old-time king who actually is discussing the fact that when you do a job, you should be paid. And you can see clearly that from here, it means that there is a system of payment. They are not leaving the client and then the professional to just do their own thing, but there's a system reference to, because it says, if a builder build a house for someone and complete it, he shall give him a fee of 2 shekels in money for each side of surface. So it's a stated amount. What we call in our professional scale of fees. I know some of you don't know that we have a professional scale of fees. We do. It's issued by the Ministry of Works and Housing. And again, I'm bringing your mind to this, that government, in our objectives, we said that government should be one part of what has to be discussed in this lecture. So this is stated by the king, and we have professional scale of fees where the minister leads the professionals in the industry to actually come up with a fee. And then the rest of them is talking about what will happen if professional falls short of his expertise. Who has a microphone? Yeah. So let's look at one of them. Just read one of them.
231.
231. Okay.
If it kill a slave of the owner, then he shall pay slave for slave to the owner of the house.
Okay. So taking it from 229, it says that if a builder builds a house for someone and does not construct it properly, and the house falls and kills the owner, then the builder shall be what? Put to death. So somehow, the same code is talking about making sure that the professional is paid and also making sure that he's held responsible. And that was in the past. And so now, in contemporary times, we look to regulation. in order to control and protect professionalism. And it says regulations are official rules and orders and others prescribed by authority to govern, control, and supervise conduct or appropriate behavior with penalties up to the issue of fines and imprisonment. Up to the issue of fines and imprisonment. And then we'll look at it briefly when we are talking about investigation committee and disciplinary committee, that on which the Architect Regulation Council has. So as a regulatory body, and looking at regulation, we look at 4 aspects. Regulation, we want to talk about policy. We want to talk about the implementation of the policy, enforcement, and compliance. And what do you think we will say is policy in this regard? Because we said in the definition of regulation that there are rules and orders. So there should be a policy that will guide us in terms of protecting and controlling professionalism. And that is why the ARC is existing. This policy is what is contained as a rule, as a law, as an order, for which we must all be guided by. And for its implementation, there has to be an establishment of a body, because policy must be implemented once it is accepted by the enactment of Parliament. And of course, to implement it, we need to enforce, to make sure that the rules and orders are actually operationalized and that everybody is doing exactly what is in the policy. And we make sure that people remain compliant to what is set in the policy. At the ARC, all this boils down particularly to the licensure. And it begins right from education all the way to this level at which you are now. All of that is contained in the policy of the Architects Act. And the licensing is a process where entry into the professional body is controlled by government. And how is it controlled? It is controlled by that which is in the policy. It is controlled by the establishment of the physical space, which is the ARC. It is controlled by the leadership's guidance and directives that comes through enforcement, and the fact that you are charged to be compliant. And you must know that the regulation is not without the professional body, because remember when we were discussing earlier, we said as a professional you need to belong to a professional body. Okay? All right. So now the importance of regulation through professional licensing is therefore to ensure that we have adequate, qualified, and suitable persons. So you know you came for the interview. Before you are sitting here, you had to go through a kind of a thorough investigation. Did you fill forms? Did you submit your certificate? Did you submit your logbooks? All that is to ensure that we have the right people, the qualified people in their position. And that you are aware of the established standards of best practices. And you are still gathering those best practices during this time as you are going through this PPE. And also that you have a reference point for your clients. That is why the Architects Registration Council also exists. Why? Because each year we actually publish the list of architects in good standing. This year, when you pass your exams, we are going to present you to the president of the public through the council that these are the qualified architects ready to practice and join the professional body. And so they can trust you. And of course, by doing this, our monopoly, although we want to say it's a challenge, is still maintained. We try to eliminate charlatans, those who haven't gone through this long period of training, those who haven't registered, those who haven't gone through the professional exams and having established that they are in accordance with standards and accepted best practices. So the Architects Registration Council, because it has policy which was enacted by government, is a professional regulatory agency under the Ministry of Works and Housing. And as I said, it is established by the Architects Act 1969 and LCD 357, purposely for the establishment of the ARC to regulate the affairs of architects, and I wish it was architecture, and related matters. And related matters. Architects and related matters. And related matters is for that reason why your client can come to our office and say that I don't want to call a name that is here, has kind of faltered, and we have them. And that is why the investigation committees exist, and that's why the disciplinary committees exist, and so on and so forth. And that's why you have to read those cases and be aware of what you have to do. It is also backed by the the Constitution of Ghana, Article 11, and then 109, talking about the law and then professional bodies. Because it is a government agency, it is subvented and operates through the Public Services Commission, that's a PSC. It has a governing body, that's the ARC board, with a chairman. It has management, it has a chief executive officer, has staff, and then the committees that I keep mentioning. So let's look at the organogram. Can you see from the board clear? So at the apex of the organogram is the governing body. And when we were outside, we didn't know how very important the board was. Okay, you can't see clearly, but at the top of the diagram is the governing body. And right now we have the third governing body in place. That means we've had a first and then the second in succession, under which we have a registrar and then a deputy. And then of course we have the supporting staff of audit and legal counsel. Now, the highlighted sections are where architects actually fit in, because we have the policy, we have monitoring and evaluation, and then we have registration and practice issues where we talk about education and all that, and then we have registration as well. It's not clear, as I said. I will have to probably print it out, but it's not something very very important unless you want to know that there are fields other than actual architectural practice that you can work in. So the structure, I think those in front can actually see better than those at the back. And I don't even know why all of you are seated at the back when there are chairs in front. Please move to the front. And make sure you don't attend your other lectures late. Kindly move to the front. Yes, occupy the front seat. Next time when you are late, you bring them buffaloat, which is called buffalo, and cocoa. So currently, the ARC has been given this structure to operate with. We do all this, but we don't have the full structure in place. So there are opportunities for some of you to join us in order to make it a full operationalized ARC. As I said, the policy and research area is not established very well, although we do research. The registration and practice division is working fully. The regulation and enforcement division is also working fully. The zonal offices, we've been given the green light to operate zonals in all the regions, but for now we have only two, one in Accra here and one in Kumasi to serve the northern sector of the country. So we are looking to some of you to actually join regulation. You might want to read along that and see where you can fit in. We need people to join. There's a brief history of the Architects Registration Council, which talks about the fact that it started off in 1969 as a decree. So the decree only means that it wasn't such a thorough, broad document, but then became an act under the 1992 Constitution and functioned until the 70s when it was taken over by the GIA. But in 2000, the GIA we work together as you are seeing us do. And the Architects Act, which governs us, which actually established the ARC, is under review. It is under review. As a probationer at this level, very soon to graduate to become a professional architect, and I'm wishing you all the best for all of you to go through. Be conscious of this review because it affects you. Whatever is contained in there affects you. Don't really be interested in making money. Be aware of the Bible that you have and be aware of what it contains. So the ARC is stated to have a dual mandate. Yes.
Okay, please, I was asking that you wrote that the act was under review.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they are going to change it.
Okay, so what does it mean? Who knows what it means?
Well, if it's under review, my thinking is there are some things that they want to amend or change.
That's what it means. It means we want to look at it and see whether there are some things in it that we want to take out or make better or add on to. And that's why I'm saying it concerns you. Until I came to the regulatory body, I didn't know it was that important, but it is very, very important. So you must, as I said, don't be interested only in money, but be interested in your profession as a whole, and make sure you make your meaningful contribution as to what it contains. Architecture is actually going down because we haven't been paying attention. The engineers have focused and others are focusing. The Act is one of the documents that have been developed before most documents. In fact, it was recently we helped the engineers to develop their Act. And then LUSPA is also having a document and so on and so forth. I think the planners don't even have it yet. And then the quantity surveyors also don't have it yet. But yet, we have been overtaken. Because we are just, what do they call it? Complacency. We are living in some kind of a past glory. So the act is under review. There are various aspects of it. For instance, what should we do with draftsmen? Should any information be in the act for us in order to make sure that non-architects don't do what they are claiming they can do? Are you getting it? In any case, the act is also old, 1969 till now. When acts are being reviewed 5 years, 10 years, ours is like how many years? Yeah, so you can imagine the things that are in there. There are inconsistencies because at a time, I don't know, the GIA was the one that was in existence before the regulatory body kind of. So there are duplications of roles. There are some terms that are not concrete, use of may and all that, and clarity in some issues as to what exactly the sentence means. And it's not a strange thing, it's common with a lot of laws. Okay, so let's move on. We say the mandate of the ARC is dual because you remember we said that regulation talks about control and also protection. So in a way, the ARC's mandate aims at protecting the profession and also controlling the profession. We protect in a way, protect the clients so that we don't take undue advantage of them and they also don't take undue advantage of us. And also that we uphold the integrity of the architectural profession right from education through to practice. And this is done through ensuring that the architect's registration has a management system that is fit to do what it has to do. And that's why I'm employing you to be interested in the Architects Registration Council. Don't be interested only in practice. Be also interested in the regulation. When you go to the legal council, you will see that there are a lot of lawyers in their regulatory council. It's not left to other professionals or any other person to occupy. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so every act, as I said, every agency is actually established through an act, and that act is captured by a certain ministry. So we are captured by the Ministry of Works and Housing. So we are under the Ministry of Works and Housing. It is the responsibility of the Minister of Works and Housing to lead and make sure that the review is done. We do our bit as the regulatory body. The association must also do a bit. You, as an individual, will do your bit. Stakeholders, the general public, the man working on the street, clients, all are involved in making sure that we review. But because, as it is even stated here, for the establishment of the ARC to regulate the affairs of architects, we are key. Okay? All right. A moment. Okay. Yes. You're not sharing it here. So you can copy back. Don't let them take. So what do you want to do? But this, I think we have to close it. We have to shade it because if we had shaded it, don't you agree with me? Yeah, now. They are architects, they influence space. Yeah, so as I'm saying, you can take it back. Sure. Is it that they want to see? Yeah. Okay, I'll share. You let them know. I'll share it with them later. I want to move to my slide and then you can be doing what you want to do. Okay, so your question was just, you said under whose authority? So it's under the Ministry of Works and Housing, but then we are all involved. But I must say that it's a process that had begun before, got stalled, it has begun again, and it's in process. You have to justify why, you have to review it, and as we justify that it's been long overdue, it's too old, it has this, it has that, as I stated, the shortfalls and so on and so forth. And for the fact that there are new trends, for instance, when you talk about new trends, we have almost all the polytechnics now want to do architecture. They want to do sustainable architecture. They want to do technology, something, and that kind of thing. And then sometimes you look at the course content and it's like, it's just a bit of what you did at KNUST or at Central, but they all want to be called architects at the end of the day. So what is governing that? All this must come to the discussion. Of course, we are doing our bit because we have an education committee that tries to streamline and make things right. Yes, sir. Your second question. Who has the... So you agree that you are the class prefect? He. Okay, so Salon.
So the second question is,
Yeah.
You said something about us getting involved in the ARC
Yeah.
when we are done. So is it possible for one to actually practice professionally while still being engaged in the ARC? Or is it something that takes all your time to do?
How many of you are working at AESL? Do you work on the side? Who is working in a government setup apart from AESL? AESL is not fully government, it's quasi. So you're working development of it. You work on the side. We understand what it is. Yes, it's a challenge. There's a lot of work there, but to even say that you are an enforcer of the law, you are in enforcement, because it talks about policy implementation, enforcement, compliance. How will you know whether the right thing is being done if you yourself you are not aware of what is happening? So I would want to argue that there should be a second job for the person working in the regulation. There's a whole lot that is not clear now, but nobody has been surcharged for working as an architect, aside working at the regulation. But I want to let you know that we are only 3 architects at ARC for now. And that's why we need more of you. We have put in, I'm trying to look at the time and make sure that, okay, so it's only 10. We are looking for architects to be involved in the district assembly. So we have put forward a request. We call it financial clearance. Before you employ people in the government sector, you need to have financial clearance. So we are asking for financial clearance so that we can employ architects at all the regional levels. In some of the regions, not even one architect. Not even one architect is even practicing as an individual. And you know, recently the president went around the assemblies to do town hall meetings. I don't know how many of you knew about that. Do not have architects, even here. I didn't mention names, so. But it is true, it's a fact. They are not there. So if you design, when you become a professional and you design, who is vetting your design? Can you imagine? You draw an architect, and then a draftsman is the one giving the go ahead as to whether your drawing is fit for purpose or not. Are you getting it? So don't be interested only in private practice. Join government so that we will enforce the laws. Shalom, are you listening? Who is sitting by you? What is his name? Barry. Barry. Some of you, even your Size will make sure that the draftsman will understand we have architects. Eh? You understand what I'm saying? Yes. We have to take over. We have to belong to where it matters. Of course, at the assembly, probably it will not be proper for you to be drawing or practicing. I don't know. But when we have this discussion going forward, we will be able to find how we should behave by the codes of ethics that will apply then. But please, let's get to the assemblies. Salom and Barry have been employed by AMA. They are looking for architects. The only problem is the payment is not good, and that's it is a different discussion altogether. But you know, when you don't fit in, you can't argue for. You get what I'm saying? If we don't have people at the development offices in numbers, if we don't have people at the assembly in numbers, we can't go and make a case. When the doctors are talking, they want to lay down their tools, blah, blah, blah. Then there's chaos. Everybody is afraid. Architect, I want to lay down my tool. Yes. Are you getting it? Meanwhile, we are controlling everything, even in the theater. Is that not it? So let's matter properly. And at the right time, and the right time is now. Let's fit in. So, of course, we want to promote architecture nationwide, and of course, we want to be a world-class regulator. Good morning. Once I'm around, at least let me say hello to you. My name is Seyi. I'm the registrar, and I want to welcome all of you. Father, I want to see that you'll be part of the fraternity, so be encouraged. Okay, there's nothing anywhere. I think that you are all capable of becoming a registered and qualified architect. So we want to encourage you. Just make sure that you pay attention to whatever you are taught throughout this program, this workshop, and then make sure that you prepare adequately for the examination. I think you are more than able. Okay, so I just want to encourage you. Okay, keep it up. Have a nice day. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So who is the registrar? Architect Dr. Iya Butchwe. He's the registrar of the Architects Registration Council. So he's a member of the board, and he's also the chief executive officer of the ARC. When your matter comes up anywhere, these are the people, the board, the chief executive officer, management. These are the people that talk for you. Okay. All right. So the ARC, I said, wants to be a world-class standard regulator for the profession. And that's why we are looking for you. And I was making a point that when you go to legal counsel, the lawyers are there at the regulatory level. You ask this, they say he's a lawyer. You ask that. So they are there. They have your best interest, and then they push the legal profession forward. The same thing must happen at the ARC, so that we can fight our cause right. I don't know, as young people coming in, regardless of your age, you are still young people coming, how much you are aware that your job is in the hands of others, sometimes even foreigners. We are making our best efforts, but we want you to join us. We have core values at the ARC, and it is because every agency and the ministry must have these strategic statements of mission, vision, core values, objectives, and you can see that professionalism is stated, integrity is stated, customer focus, equity, and all that. It's stated right in there. And so I ask you to stand for something. Architecture. The objectives, which are the goals, are also stated. And of course, the education is of key importance to the council. We, as I said earlier, we want to make sure that we are joining the ministries and departments and then the assemblies to enforce all the laws, and that is why you are needed in there. And one of our objectives is to make sure that we get as many architects in place as much as possible. We also aim to help reduce national poverty, and I mean nationwide we aim to reduce poverty. So whatever it is you are doing, particularly in housing, we want you to make sure that we have greater affordability. And because we have such objectives and goals, we are able to support you. People come for attestation, people come for introductory lecture, blah, 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 and then they get investors or supporters to do they want to do. Our clients are listed, and when we list our institution, other professional bodies, we work closely with engineering council, planners, and so on, and other international bodies, to mention a few. Let's look at the act, unless someone also has a question to ask again. Should we go on? Yeah. Who has a? Please pass it on. Followed us. Together, they are not different from each other. And if you look at the history that we went through briefly, at a time, even the GIA was responsible for regulation. And then at a time, they were working together, and then now they are separated. What do you think is the best? Yes.
My answer to that is a question.
You want to ask a question?
No, my answer to that
The
is
question,
a question.
yes.
Is it possible for the GIA to play the role of the ARC so that it's just one body?
Okay.
So that's my answer to
Okay.
that.
So, pardon? GIA joins ARC to do, yeah, alternatively. So you say the ARC to join the GIA, and then he is saying the GIA to join the ARC. Whatever it is, you are thinking they should work together.
Not to join.
Not
Mine is that the GIA will act as
the
this body.
regulator.
So
the
then
GIA,
there'll be no ARC.
there will be no ARC.
Yeah.
Okay, so there will be no ARC. The if you get the lecture or the discussion clearly, it says that the ARC is backed by law, by the law, and that is the Architects Act 1969, NLCD 357. GIA is not backed by that kind of policy. So our institution is a professional knowledge body, but without government policy backing it. Are you getting it? That is what it is. So now, if you want the two to merge, you have to think through. I don't have an issue, but I want you to think through. If you want to regulate somebody, should the person be within you? I don't know. Will there be conflict of interest? I don't know. But I'm asking you, what do you think?
Well, I think it should be separate because if they are worksmates, there will be conflict of interest, as you mentioned earlier. When it comes to government works, I think if GRA is part of ARC, most of the works will just automatically be for some of the architects in GRA. So ideally, to separate that, both bodies has to be separated.
For me, the act was passed in 1969. That's over 60 years. So why can't we amend, not to bring them together, but in the sense that you said ARC is backed by law. So can that power be?
It's not to say that
So my thing is, earlier on you said we are trying to run a monopoly. Okay. And if is it
yes, is it a monopoly?
well, what I am thinking is if we are looking to make the body stronger, why have them separate? If you want to make something stronger, if my dad is the ARC and my dad is backed by law and I'm under my dad, okay, wouldn't it be wiser if I join forces with my dad to make rules in the house? Okay.
ARC and the GIA continue to work together, but as separate bodies because they have different mandates. One is a regulator. How can you be the policeman and then still be the public? We have to register with ARC and register with GIA as well. Register with the regulator because it is the regulator that gives you the certificate to practice. Okay, and so you don't forget I'm a GIA member. So I'm kind of arguing from GIA and arguing from the ARC. So I'm just asking myself, if I'm the public and the police is to regulate me, and then I'm also saying I'm the police, who then gets regulated? Yes. Okay, so it's not mandatory to pay dues to GIA and it's mandatory to pay dues to ARC. In my presentation, I told you professional professionalism, you must belong to a professional body. You must belong to a professional body. And if the professional body states that as part of you being a member, you need to pay dues, you have to pay dues. You have to pay dues. The advantages of belonging to a professional body is far better than not belonging to a professional body. I don't think I want to be outside GIA at all. I want to belong to GIA. There are so many advantages. The ARC used to organize design competition. GIA organizes design competition. There are continuous development, professional development courses in there. When you have a case, you belong to a professional development group that can fight your cause. Why are you even a Ghanaian? Is it not because you belong to Ghana? You belong to, why do you want to be outside and belong to GIA? You get what I'm saying? And it's for the fact that we have different mandates, which is still just aiming at the same thing anyway, that we need to have the regulator and the one that is being regulated. And don't forget, in that history, we have done it before. We have tried to coexist or be one before. Why they have moved on and given due cognizance to the council is probably because of what Patricia said. And that is one of the issues we have even in the review, conflicting responsibilities. But I don't know what will happen if we actually sit down and put it all together. Yes, you want to say? But his hands have been up for long.
My question is, if ARC is the regulatory body, what if I don't want to join GIA, but I want to be an architect, a registered architect? Isn't there a way? What I'm saying is, ARC is the regulatory body, right? I want to be an architect, but I don't want to join GIA. The reason being that GIA is registered architect under GIA, which is a professional body. But I don't want to join that professional body. Maybe I want to join another professional body. But I want to practice as an architect here in Ghana. Shouldn't there be a way ARC can, get architects?
Which I don't want to bring in now. So let's leave that one. But I want to encourage you to know that the regulator has its role to play, just as the institute has its own role to play. And somebody said the institute is an association. It is an association, but of a particular kind. It's not an association like we have, past students group, that kind of thing. They don't do any training, they don't do any learning, they don't bring any businesses. So it's a level higher than all other kinds of association. As to whether the right to belong, the right not to belong, I again send you back to the word professional, professionalism, and the fact that you have to belong to a professional body once you say you are a professional. Yes. Who has the mic? Yes. Please go ahead.
Okay, so earlier on you said something about architects not advertising. I just want to understand why that is. Like, why is it that we are not allowed to advertise even on social media?
This
Thank
topic is a topic that can take us like forever. You'll be meeting the president. You just met the registrar. You will meet the board chairman. When you meet them, I want you to ask them these questions. This particular question: why we don't advertise? Okay? All right. Are we okay? Should we move forward? We want to.
Is GIA a private body under the government body, which is ARC?
It's an institution that is recognized.
The government, no.
And that is why they are working together. Isn't it beautiful?
So
We move forward and become professional. Gradually,
as a private entity, we can also form a body and write to the ARC to back us.
why do you want to do?
Because once it's privatized, like, yeah. Because the law, then, if it happens like,
Just
unless
like
the law
the way
states
legal
that,
counsel now has.
yes, exactly.
Well, I don't know why you want to do that. These exams, when you become a professional, come to my office and let's argue this point further, okay? All right. For now, it's GIARC. Okay. All right. So let's move forward. The Architects Act, which is actually the document on which the council is established, is divided into sections, parts and sections. I mean, you can read them in the headings like that. By way of introduction, you realize the first part talks about what the board constitutes and then the functions of the ARC. And then part 2 talks about qualifications and then the restrictions. That which qualifies you to register as an architect and that which disqualifies you. And then we also have the third part that focuses on offenses and penalties. As you remember, we said that regulation actually controls you, supervises you to the extent that when you default, then there's fine and then imprisonment. So these are contained in the act, and then the part 3 has its extension into two schedules that talks about what disciplinary committee should do, and then the issue of professional conduct. So you see just by the headings that regulation is actually stating what we should look out for in terms of who qualifies, who does not qualify, who can register, who is offending, what should we do, and so on. But by virtue of the fact that it is an all act, it is actually limited. For instance, it tells you to do something and then do something, and it doesn't conclude as to whether you should go to court with the person or how to even arrest somebody when you find that is defaulting. So these are some of the things that we find. But for now, it is what guides us, and it has done quite so well. We've looked at the governing body, and I say they are very important. We may not know, but these are the people who sit at the topmost position to discuss the issue of architecture. So, in terms of the review, I'm stressing on the review. We are asking for people to advocate for the inclusion of Central University on the board, because they are not represented there, or there should be like some double position for them. One person come for a certain number of years, and then the other. If we have to maintain the number that has to be on the board, and so on and so forth. And then in there, because it says for architects and related matters, I don't know why that clients are not even presented. In recent times, a lot of policy make sure that general public or the non-professionals are also part of the governing body in order that their voice can also be heard. But the good thing is that the body is led by a chairman who is also an architect. The functions of the council, which is within the part 1, says that the council is to be concerned with the architectural profession and to secure the highest practicable standards in the practice of architecture. So we are looking for excellence. Who said excellence? Yeah. So best practice, always at the top. And of course, when we have best practice, then we have joy. And probably we can even have love as some. Yes. Yeah. So focusing on the function, it says the council shall prescribe and approve courses of study for and the conduct of qualifying examinations for registration as a registered architect and architectural firms. And so we look at the reviews, as I was saying, this one wants to do architecture this one wants to do architecture that. So we have to look at that and give accreditation to the schools that want to offer anything related to architecture. B, it talks about maintain and publish a register of architects and architectural firms. Remember, we said that there should be a reference point for clients to actually connect to. And that is the essence of regulation as well. And then we prescribe and uphold standards of professional conduct and ethics. Currently, there is no document on professional conduct and ethics at the regulatory level per se, a full one. Whilst at the GIA level, we have something. And then control the practice of architecture. These are all areas where those who want to even join academia can focus and do a whole lot and bring out documents that can be useful to architecture. What do we mean by the control of practice of architecture? There's a whole lot we can write over there, and a whole lot of understanding that we can come by in terms of what is professional conduct and then ethics going forward. So these are the functions of the ARC. And then you look at the discussion that was before this, that the GIA and then the ARC should be together to do this control of architecture. There's a register at the GIA. There's a register at ARC. It doesn't spoil anything. Clients can make reference to it. In some instances, clients even look to the institute for membership in order for them to be engaged, although we give certificates at the regulatory body. But by law, it is the regulatory body that is seen to be doing that. Yes, you were going to say something? So the power of the council may make bylaws for the following purposes: the management and operations of the council, administrative and whatever. But the committees are where I want attention to be drawn to. The committees and their procedures. Yes, please. Who has a?
Okay, Madam, please, I think from your submission, I had not seen anything on payments. But I'd seen,
About your fiscal.
yeah, because you are regulating the curricula for school and other things, and even architecture firms.
Okay, so it's in there. Is it there?
We are now getting there.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you've seen it.
Okay, thank you. The first function of ARC. So, got to realize that ARC is responsible for the exam. So, this professional practice exam that we are preparing to write, if such a question comes up, and in reality, GIA is the one in charge of the exam we are going to write. But per the functions, it is ARC who is responsible for organizing the exam. So how do I respond to such a question?
This politics. Right. So the function is stating it prescribes. Let's go there. My mom is an English teacher, but I don't think I'm a professional English teacher. Prescribe and approve courses of study for. And the conduct. Is it a noun? Is it a verb? And the conduct. Or and to conduct. But the word say and the conduct. How it should be done. And the conduct. So these are the issues with the review. These are the issues we are bringing up. And the conduct. That has been, I know some of you have heard about this, and that's why it's coming now. And the conduct. And because they say we should prescribe and approve, does it mean ARC should do the exams? I don't know. And others argue that the institute is where practitioners converge. The GI is where all those who are practicing converge. So does it mean if you're an architect and you don't practice, you want to belong to the ARC and then argue that the exam should come there? In any case, currently is organizing and then we are involved. The board chairman is involved. And after all of it, and even for the fact that there's auditing, when it gets to the ARC, we still audit. We still go through at the management level to make sure what was purported, what was programmed, has actually been done. In actual fact, we are part of it. Even during the interview, I came in to sit in briefly during your workshops, I'm part of you. When you are writing the exam, we make sure that things are done well, the questions are set as a regulatory body, and that is why the issue of whether they should work together comes in. Because somewhere there should be a line where somebody behaves as the policeman to make sure that we are doing things right. So we actually oversee and make sure, as much as we are part of it, we still kind of draw ourselves to one side and see that things are being done well. So the exams comes, the results, we still look at it and make sure that the report that is presented by the examination committee is what it is. And then even you, if you have a problem and we are all together, GIA, ARC, and we organize this, and you have a problem, it means you will come back to us again, the same people, to solve the problem. But if we set ourselves aside, and then you have a problem, and you cannot resolve it with the institute, you can take it a little higher to the regulator, hoping that things can be resolved before we start shouting in the public domain. Okay. All right. So we are talking about the power of the council, and then we talk about the committees. The committees are very relevant. The education committee actually we mentioned and spoke about. We have we also have finance committee. We have standing general purpose, anything that comes across. We have the investigation, which is set up as and when there is an issue, and we've had quite a couple of them. Some of them are in process. We have the disciplinary committee and any other committee that will be deemed fit for a certain duty. And we also look at the definition of unprofessional conduct can also come up. And as I said, some of these things are not clearly defined in the Act. So when it hits us, we have to write to the AG, the Attorney General, for interpretation of the law of any part of the Act that has to be looked at. The professional scale of fees is also an ad hoc that is instituted at the command of the minister every 2 years. So I think we are even due for review because the last one was done in 2022. So somehow it will come up again. And the fees are discussed by all the professionals in the built environment. We sit up and review what is existing as to what has to be paid. I don't know whether probationer is in there or junior architect. We've seen the letter. Okay, yesterday. So junior architect, consultant, project, that kind of thing. So the list is there. So we try to gauge fees for the various levels of the profession. There's something else I want to challenge those of you who are interested in making impact into the profession is how we get the titles. How do we get titles? When do you move? After you move from the probational level to the professional architect level, within AESL, because I've worked there, you have a structure you can climb and become a consultant at the topmost, and then maybe an MD. When you are working in the private sector, how do you rise? Are you getting it? When you are working with this firm and you are a professional, what do you become in 3 years? What do you become in 6 years? What do you become in this number of years? And what is the utmost? When do you become a partner of the whatever, the principal, and so forth? We don't have such a structure, so it's also an area that we can look up to. Then fees in terms of initial payment when you graduate, probationer, when you become a full architect after being admitted, and then for annual registration is also done at the council. And then of course the procedure for registration. Procedure for registration sometimes is seen as something that doesn't matter, but it does matter because we've had people trained from outside who sometimes don't qualify and they still want to move into registration. We've had people thinking that they can freelance. The fact that you are sitting in this room means that you have actually passed through the interview, which kind of screened off those who haven't gone through the proper procedure that has been set for registration. Yeah. Yeah.
Get that. So, is there anything in the amendment that's working towards that? And if Ministry of Works and Housing comes up with a certain scale of fees, why is it that the government itself cannot pay that? If the government can't pay that, how are individuals supposed to pay that?
Another political discussion. So you are not working for government. How do you know what government people are being paid, and then you want to demand the same in the private sector? Well, these are issues that we have to discuss. Even the scale of fees, how many people are actually holding on to it, making sure they charge what is stated in the scale of fees? Even when we were discussing it at the last sitting, there were issues. Is it the ceiling? Is it the floor? When we say 16%, is it the ceiling above which one should charge? Is it the floor on which you can go up? So there were twists and turns here and there that we need clarity for. Do you have to even consider the fact that when you prepare your certificate for payment and you are not paid within this year, next year, 3 years, should that 16% still apply? You know, there were a whole lot. So it's still on the table. It's a good thing we have it, but like you are saying, how can we make the implementation right? It's an issue. I don't think I have the answer. I don't think we have the answer now. It's a discourse that we have to sit down and have and make sure that we come to terms. And even the percentages that go to other professionals were all issues within the 16%. What goes to the architect? What goes to the engineer? What goes to the quantity surveyor? You know, that kind of thing. They are there. But as you said, are we practicing? And if government itself, if you work for GetFund, they don't even look, they don't look at that. They look something less. And then they also have an argument based on where they are coming from. Okay. And so we look at the power of the ministry, and as we said, it also have, it says it may make regulation consultation with the board. And I must say that the word may there, just the word may, is even an issue. Should it not be? It should. If you say may, then a minister can choose to just, have a lukewarm attitude towards things. But if you say it should or it shall is usually what the legal term is, then it is binding, more or less. But all the same, we have had good relationships with the ministry as well. The minister is very much on point on issues regarding architecture. All right. So qualification for registration, I think by now you know what it entails. Right from the beginning, it says you have to have a long tertiary education. And then not just have the education, you have to have the certification. I have had calls where a colleague didn't finish up with the certification. So the certificate is important. That's the evidence after the long process. you have to pass through the 3-tier process of the PP. It used to be one, now it is 3-part process. And you are coming from, do we have foreigners amongst us? Okay, all of you are Ghanaians this year. Okay, so those who come from outside, for instance, someone called yesterday, he had been here twice, just trying to do what you guys have done. And it's quite difficult where he is and even trying to join you. So it's a privilege to be in this room. It's a good opportunity and you should take advantage and make sure that all of you, how many you understand 75, everyone must pass once you have. Then he says those who were even before the degree, you have to be resident in Ghana, your sound mind, and so on. And here are the probationers, graduate architects. Then you become a newly admitted architect. And then we have foreign trained architects. We have firms and foreign firms. These are the registers we have. And so when you move to the newly admitted architects, that means you join the full register. If you are on that register, what you need to do is to remain on it. How do you remain on the register? So you are writing your exams when? June. And then you get inducted by the council in October, thereabout. Those who are not answering, is it that you don't want to pass and be on the register? Be on the register. Oh. Nobody should. How many are writing for the second, third time? I don't want you to raise your hand. But if you are writing for the second, third time, fourth time, fifth time, we have had people who have written it for 9 times. And very soon, probably, leadership will say that you should be given only 5 times. And if you don't pass, then you don't write again. So if you are here, you have written it 3, 4, 5 times. Like my boss said, it's not anything. You must just pay attention, sit up and do it once and for all. Okay? Are you with me? Don't go and come back again. Whether you are writing in the 3rd or the 4th time, don't come back again. In fact, if you come back, I'll sack you. Hello? Please. Who said so?
That's why I said correct me if I'm wrong.
All right. So 10 years.
That's what I. That's
Yeah.
what
If
I
you
know.
are if you are young, give yourself 10 years, 5 years to 10 years.
Okay, but I want to understand why we have to wait for 10 years before you can register your architecture company, because here is the case where we are all going to write this exam.
Have you been to ARC? Are you registered with us?
Yes, I'm registered with you.
And you saw 10 years.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Come to my office. You haven't passed your exams yet. You are already registering your.
Okay.
What's the name of your firm? To be.
We'll discuss that after I pass the exam. We'll discuss that. Yeah, but the question is.
Yes.
Here's the case where you're going to write an exam, pass, and be inducted as registered architects, practice professionally. So if I have passed my exam, I have my license, and I want to start something immediately. Is that why do I need to hold on?
Okay, so let me just cut you short. Why do you want to practice as a firm right away? What does a firm entail? What does it entail? Yes. What do you think we are going to have? You are going to have a physical office. It's mandatory. You are going to have an administrator, you are going to have an accountant, you are going to register with the general registrar general, you are going to have all that immediately after school. I'm going to do
This
it.
is
I'm
not
just
after
asking,
school.
it's possible now.
This is not after school.
Yeah,
I don't.
so
I don't think anyone.
we have bylaws which try to design the procedure for registration, as I said. So if you are thinking that 10 years, 20 years, 25 years is too long, and you want to bring it down to immediately after you pass your exam, you will not practice under your name, but you will just move straight into a firm. Yes, that's what I'm asking.
No,
You said after 10 years. 10 years is too long.
Yeah.
So when you pass your exams, you are a professional architect.
Yeah.
You can practice as Barry or surname. You can do your documentation, whatever. But you want to form a firm which you will call Barry and Associates. Okay? And it's telling you 10 years. And you have an issue with that. So let's discuss it. Come to my office. Let's see whether you can have only 1 year of yourself. And
No, you see, this is where I believe there are a few colleagues here who have been in offices for probably who have worked in offices for about probably over 5 years, and they have the experience. Probably they have the financial capacity to do that, to start something. And then they've gone through all these years of school, all the years of training. They get their license, and then they are held back because they can't start an architecture company of
okay,
their
so
own.
you can have a partner who is already in the field. You can partner with him. 2 years, he stayed somewhere. That's why I'm asking whether you have been to our office. Come back to the office. Come back to ARC after the exam. Let's pass the exams, okay?
Madam, you haven't answered my question.
What did he say? I haven't answered it. I said come back. Whether it is 2 years of every year, everyone, 10 years and 2 years, and a partner. That's why I'm asking whether you read.
With the partnership,
Yes.
now here's the case where some of us have to work smart.
Pardon?
With the partnership you are talking about, this is a case where some people now, because that door is closed, they now have to
You
work.
see, there's the issue of having graduated as an architect and the issue of having become a professional. When are you a professional? Are you a professional? Now, don't jump. Oh. Don't jump. Having become a professional, then you become an owner of a firm. So 2 years after 2 years after you have become a professional, and then 5 years in the field working under someone. We have had people even writing about that's within the act. There's no stated number as you are mentioning in the act. But then the procedure states that it should be this number of years. It has been an issue. But it's a bylaw that has been formulated. And then there's a procedure that says this number of years. And because the opportunity has been given to the leadership to form bylaws, it also becomes binding, sort of. So it's a discussion. Everything we are even talking about here is feedback. That goes back. So you come back to the office. Let's see whether you have 10 years or 5 years in the act or in the bylaws.
This question is not for me. It's for everybody. That's what I'm asking.
Which question is for you?
Yeah, what I just asked.
Yeah.
So the
Yes.
procedure, as you said, is
Yeah.
taking precedence over the bylaw. Is that what it is? Is that what is being said?
No, it doesn't take precedence over it. But it's a process. It says you can have a firm after a certain number of years. Is it the minimum? Is it the maximum? And if the procedure now is saying this is what has to go, and that's why I said somebody has written and asked why we have used this number of years. Are you getting it? And those are the sitting at the time stating it is this number of years might have had reason for stating it, and it has worked for that time. But now that we even had an official letter, we have looked at it, and that's why I'm saying, come back and let's have a discussion. So it's answered for everybody now. Pass first. When you pass, come back to the ARC. Okay? All right. I don't think it says 10 years, but I don't want to go so much into it because we have feedback on the matter. So I don't want to take it further. But in any case, when you want to register, then after 2 years, you start applying. If you have difficulty, the opportunity is for you to have a partner. A partner, even if he says 10 years, you can get a professional who is 10 years and you can partner. It is when you want to go solo. And of course, I've also thought about it, and I feel, why is it that when someone becomes a professional immediately after passing and wants to own a firm, is that not it? Why can't the person just go ahead? What do you think is the reason? Let's play the devil's advocate. What do you think is the reason why they would demand a certain number of years? Pardon? Experience. You know, being an individual and a firm is a complete different ballgame. And big clients don't want to deal with individuals. They want to deal with firms. So if you want to be a firm, you should have a certain capacity. I agree with you that your father is very rich, is capable of offering you space. But you see where the arguments can go. Some form of experience. Because now you have to be on your own. You were under someone. And then now you have qualified. And that's why it says newly admitted architect. Newly admitted architect. And then you are given the certificate. You should gain some experience. And then, of course, you will now play out as a firm in your head and then gradually become. The number of years is what can be an issue. But immediately thereafter to be firm. Yes, Yebu.
Somebody has worked for 10 years before they took the professional exam. The person has experience. I'm saying that somebody, in case somebody has worked for about 10 years before they took the professional exam, say the person, yes, that person has.
You have worked 10 years under somebody. Some people have worked 10 years. You have attempted the exam 5 times.
What if the person didn't attempt 5 times, got to the first time? I mean,
the discussion is there. You want to be a professional for 10 years.
I mean, it's very likely. Anyways, that's, you want to add something?
Give her the
I want to ask another.
So, based the question you just asked, yes, the question you just asked about what will you be doing for 10 years? There are so many factors involved. You may not even be with a firm that is registered under
an professional architect.
Exactly. So there are so many factors that can be involved before you even take the professional exam. So
okay, so what's your name?
My name is Selenu.
Elenu. Selenu.
Yeah.
So Selenu, I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
Whatever the reasons are, Probably you didn't even practice architecture for 2 years within the 10 years. Probably you freelance another 3 years within the 10 years. That makes 5. And then probably you focus 5 years within the 10 years under someone. Are you getting it? And then you are stepping out to do professional practice examination. And then you pass. And then you want to own a firm. I'm not holding you, but I'm asking you, as your friend said, probably you need to gain experience even as a single person. Forget about what is even in the book. Let's just talk logic. Okay? Probably you want to focus as an individual. Recently, one professional architect called me. He said, I want to sue one of my staff. I said, oh, it's a big matter. Who? An administrator? Accountant? No, an architect. Oh, why? He has taken my forms, he has taken my drawings, blah, 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 blah. Why? She's interested in forming her own firm. So if you are ready as an individual, you don't take your principal's things away. You move out, just out. As an experienced person. So I'm saying we have had feedback. People asking why they have to wait long. If you think you can, immediately after passing PP, form your own firm. ARC doors are not closed. Let's come over. Let's see how qualified and experienced you are.
I think I want to add this from the client's perspective.
Yeah.
You claim you have experience.
Yeah.
What is the guarantee for me as a client
Exactly.
to carry a huge sum of money and put it on your lap?
Exactly.
I wasn't there when you were working with the other firm.
In
or
fact,
the
you
other
are a
place.
TA for that matter. So this exactly is the issue. The clients that deal with firms deal with large sums of projects most of the time. And then you have just graduated. What experience are you going to be counting? The one when you were under the professional, or the one when you operated as an individual for some time? Are you getting what I'm saying? Practice is not that easy. Yes. Hello.
Okay, so I think I understand all that is going on.
Yeah.
And I think I side with Joanna.
Yeah.
But on the ARC side too.
No, it's not on ARC side.
No, I'm just saying that
It is on us as architects. As I said, ARC exists as the law, but I said let's play
like
the
on the
devil's.
regulatory body.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So there are professionals that are not architects, but have formed sort of a studio.
They have gone?
They formed sort of a studio.
Okay.
And have architects working for them.
Okay.
And they are doing things that architecture firms do.
Okay.
So, just like my brother is saying,
yeah,
it is prudent that at least ARC gets to check anything that is close to architecture, because under the Ministry of Works and Housing, they are handling this. But because they are not registered as architecture firms, you can't touch them.
Exactly.
So
we are even looking up to you guys, which is called compliance, enforcement and compliance. We actually move out. And that's why I said you will have physical space as a firm. You will have your registered documents as a firm. Are you getting it?
So
people are doing our project, but continue. Yeah.
So if, again, in the open, if you don't give me the architects the chance, that's if I want to start because of maybe the 5 years.
Again, I agree with you.
If you don't give me that chance and I go and do as a studio, you can't regulate my practice. And then we can't get the right things done in the industry.
Okay, so further on,
Yeah.
it says that you cannot use the word architect. You cannot use the word architecture or anything architectural unless the ARC is in the act, unless the ARC recognizes you as such. Our only problem now is that we are unable to arrest and persecute. You know, SNIT, when you don't pay your SNIT, now you are able, there's a SNIT court.
Yeah.
So we have been asking ourselves, how far can we go? And it's part of the review. How far? The law is just hanging. These are non-architects. They cannot use the word architecture. They cannot do architectural. They cannot do this. We don't recognize you as a firm, but you are practicing as a firm. And when they want architectural firms to come forward, you go and then practice as an architectural firm. The law will work unless we don't know. Are you getting it? But let us not deviate from the discussion. The discussion is, when should you register as a firm? And our argument is that, do you think you are ready immediately after being newly admitted as an architect to open up a firm and compete with firms? Can you handle the large sums of money that such clients bring? It's a discussion. Are you getting it? Can we move on?
This is moving away from this discussion a bit.
Okay.
You mentioned.
Do it this way. Hold it this way.
Okay. You mentioned earlier that to be registered with ARC, you need a tertiary degree.
You need
a tertiary degree.
Yes, a tertiary degree.
You didn't specify. Is it an architectural?
Can you?
Is it an architectural degree, or can it be any building degree?
For now, it's a good question. For now, we have had only architects coming from the tertiary institution. It might interest you to know that some architects, after doing this master's degree, go back and even read engineering or read law, whatever. But they still come back and we recognize them as architects once they want to practice architecture. Some of them just want to be on the register and be recognized as such. And sometimes it plays out well for them. When you are in a certain category as a lawyer and they are looking for someone who is a lawyer and connected to construction, therefore, once you are on our register and you can prove that you've been practicing, it's a good thing to go for. We haven't had people like planners coming for us for registration, but regardless, I made a point earlier that we are now having new requests for new courses, technology in architecture, sustainable architecture. We even had recently green architecture. In fact, we have a meeting right now, which I'm even later, again, sustainable architecture. So the world is revolving around architecture. We haven't had like planners or urban designers, for that matter, coming in. But I must add quickly that we have had requests from Accra Technical Institute that wants us to kind of give them accreditation for interior design. And these are new trends that we are interested in. The only issue is we have to, as a whole body of knowledge, make sure that we have content built properly so that we can actually have the best practices that we want to attest to in our mission and vision statements, etc. Are you okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Last question, please.
Yes, madam.
The review you mentioned earlier for
The-
ARC, for the Architects Act, the review.
Yes.
When will it be over and when will the amendments be implemented?
Um,
Do you know?
Currently, it's an MOU with Cabinet, Memorandum of Understanding. at the ministerial level too. Of course, it's the ministry that handles it, but it has come. It's a very backwards and forwards procedure. So now it's with the ministry from the last time they had for some inputs. So it will come out again for stakeholder engagement. And that's when we are expecting that architects and everyone should make input into it. And it might be sent to our website, might be published on the notice boards, etc. But once you are interested in it, you need to make a follow up yourself. You kind of track it to see it will come out and call for that.
But you don't know
So,
when.
yeah.
You don't know when exactly.
Oh, no. We do not know. We don't have a definite date. Yes, someone's hands is up.
Yes, but not to sound cynical, but I wanted to ask, as being part of the GIA or the ARC or whatever it is, you pay subscription fees, be it as a probationer or as a professional. So my question is, what exactly are the dues and the subscription fees used for?
So dues and subscriptions. We have committees. For instance, let's just say this education thing. We might take a certain pay from the schools that are requesting for, but they don't fully make up for the administrative charges or the expenses that go into all the work. Government is subventing, sort of, but don't let me be political. Sometimes in a year, we don't get anything. Sometimes you get something. It used to come quite sufficiently, but I must be frank with you, it doesn't come as it should. Board seats. 8 years ago, the board that sat, they were not fully paid. Some have even passed on without receiving their pay. So those are the challenges. And if you look at the budgets, even the bills doesn't it is not anything to write home about at all. And we don't have a full staff. We do some contracting of staff. If you want to even compare what we give them to the single spine, it's not well established. As I say, we are kind of the leaders trying to do well. Currently, I think engineering council is even within the ESL building in one of their offices, So we are just managing here and there. We need to monitor. We don't even have vehicles to move around. You have to, when you want to even go out and do compliance, which is to ensure that this firm has paid, this foreign architect is doing the right thing, all these big projects we see around are not from Ghanaian architects. Where are the foreign architects? Who are the architects backing them? Blah, blah. You want to do that, you would probably have to go with the security. You have to pay the squad. You want to form a squad. There's nothing so you do it once and then there's a challenge. So it's now that we are trying to kind of push forward. If you look at even the office, we don't have space. There's a project going on now. We have to salvage tight bar, that thing where you have coins in your pocket, and that's what we are trying to do too. So that is what it is. It's a government agency, and then budget is just so challenged. Okay. Let's go on. So the general disqualifications are stated, and I want you to take note of where we talk of fraud and dishonesty, and the issue of owing subscription. For that matter, I'm sure that's why you are saying in the act it states that you shouldn't even owe dues for 6 months, and that if you owe the dues for 6 months, then you should be taken off the register, and then you have to subscribe again. And then, of course, I was telling you that we jumped before the gun. There's a restriction to the use of architecture, or architectural. So if you are not recognized as an architectural firm, you cannot act as an architectural firm, and so on and so forth. The issue of partnership. Some architects, I think someone asked whether we recognize other courses to register with us. In the registration of firms, some architects come with other professionals to register. We do the same. We find out whether the partner is registered in the other profession, blah, 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 and all that, and do due diligence and receive the responses from them. And they do same before we recognize an engineer and an architect to be in a firm to register as an architect. So initially, we used to give out certificates, provisional and temporary, to probationers like you. But over the years, we realized it was abused. Along the lines of these discussions we were having, people receive the probationary certificate 10 years and they don't want to come back. You see where the problems are. So we have had calls to just go into the practicing certificates, which you have to renew annually. And as the previous slide says, don't owe 6 months. These laws have not ever been applied well, but just as you will not know, you may be taken off and then you have to struggle to come back. We also have letters of attestation, which we offer to a lot of probationers, those who want to join army, those who have to travel for courses, etc., etc. There are so many things the council can do for you because we are backed by law. Because the logo of the government is the crest is with us. The issue of investigation. As you read the case, and as I have said, you have to do due diligence. You have to do standard care. You have to do duty of care so that no client will bring you to the council. Once you come to the council, you have to be investigated. So know the rapport, know the agreement, know the discussions. Sometimes it starts off beautifully. It starts off as church members to church members. It starts off as family to family, friend to friend. But then when the issues come, so make sure you have the agreements properly spelled out, know where your limits are, know what the obligations of the clients are, have clear understanding on your relationships with clients. Now, when an investigation committee receives, when the council receives complaints from a client, what we do is to respond. And then if there's no investigation committee in place, we quickly have to form one. And you are investigated thoroughly. Things you probably might not have done during that project can even come up. And you will be summoned to produce documentary evidence. And it might surprise you to know that right from your sketch, pen sketch is important. Your audio discussions are even captured by clients. Know when to agree whether you are all sharing audio discussion. Your WhatsApp pages are brought. So know what it is you are discussing, and remember you are having a business relationship with your client. And then, of course, you must not deceive when you are brought before the investigation committee. You have to be transparent, give good evidence, and you are, of course, at liberty to bring counsel. So some people bring their lawyers when they have to appear before the committee. So it is after the investigation committee does its preliminary works. Then the reports are given to a disciplinary committee, which then will decide on. Of course, the investigation will say we find this, that. And if the client is claiming relief of how much should I even call? $200,000. Maybe they have to sell your hair all the way down. So let us know what. So it is then that the disciplinary committee will act on what has to be done. But there are some instances where some clients go to the court before they come back. When it's like that, we have to stop our work, because once there's a court case, you shouldn't be found to be working on any such cases. Then we have the listing of professional misconduct. And something like limited liability company is something that, again, is a discussion that we don't want to even bring out now. But issues of conflict of interest, they are simple things. You should know when you are in a conflict of interest. You can list them yourself, because you're supposed to have reasonable judgment as stated under professionalism. It's in there. Accepting bribes and so on and so forth. All that. And then agreeing for someone to use your name, your stamp, as though they were the architect. So protect your stamp, protect your certificate. You're not supposed to let others use it. If they are used, you are the first person we contact. If we see your stamp on a drawing that we feel lacks standard of care, we call you. We ask why your stamp is on such. We have found drawings where architects have stamped, and within the investigation, we realized that it was a draftsman who is not supposed to design outside the 120 square meters as allowed. And then you stamped. So don't just also stamp. People are brought to the council just for stamping. Supplanting, I think you have discussed all this in your previous lessons. You know what is supplanting? Like taking over another architect's job. You know that? Yeah. So whatever job is existing before you want to take over, you need to have clear understanding. Make sure that the client actually, because it can come back to us when the architect comes to complain. And then when you want to take part in a competition, make sure that it has been approved by the council. So the activities of the council, as listed, we've come through some of them already. It's just captured again for you to know what can be done. Education, visits to schools of architecture. Those who know about CA, Commonwealth Association of Architects, we are part and make sure that the schools are in compliance, because they put them off. Accreditation, we've talked about it. Registration and maintenance of register. We have had calls for people asking for information. That's right to information is also something that is coming out. People come to our offices to ask for information on particular issues. Nobody has actually, people also ask about clients, whether they are in good standing, whether this firm. As for that, it comes very often, and so on. Okay. All right, so let's say we have drawn the curtain, and I want you to remember that in some jurisdictions, the regulator doesn't exist. It's the institute that exists. In some jurisdiction, it's the regulator that is existing, and then the body is kind of in there. And so once there's no policy actually guiding some group of people, then they can only agree on ethics to guide them. But in Ghana, we have the regulator, and all that we have been discussing falls within the regulator's domain. We take oaths or pledges during our induction, and it is not to be taken for granted. As you pledge, remember what it is you are pledging. The GIA has a pledge, the ARC has a pledge, or oath for that matter. And it is all for you to make sure that you do the right thing within your professional domain. So be certified, be compliant, and remain professional. And I wish you well. Thank you. And is it good afternoon now? Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Madam, with the issue of architects being not being allowed to be in limited liability companies,
Yes.
is it as an architecture firm or any, because architects might want to diversify and have investments?
Again, it's for me, where I see it from, it's still at the discussion stage.
So currently, as an architect, you can't be in any form of limited liability company.
I don't want to answer that. I don't want to answer that because I have even seen a word like something even beyond limited.
Okay, so my question is about the partnership.
Yes.
When you want to start a firm, you have somebody who is experienced in the field.
Yes.
Could you have somebody who has been working in the field but does not have a firm of his own? Somebody who has more experience than you do?
Yes.
It's not necessarily having a firm of his own to practice.
Yes. Yes. It's not necessarily a firm. A professional architect who has also been in the field for a number of years.
And does that person have to have like certain things, maybe milestones that they've completed before they can be seen as?
Usually, when it comes to the registration of firms, the board actually sits to discuss. So there's a form you have to fill to submit certain requirements. After doing all that, the board, so at the management level, you submit all that, and then we confirm that you have submitted all that is expected from you. From your client, references, registration, whatever. And then it is forwarded to the board or the general standing committee to discuss. Yes.
Okay, madam, my question is, can a construction company operate as a design and build company?
A construction company to register as a design is an issue that we are having. What is design? I'm happy with all these questions because there are things on board. People, because it says don't use architect, don't use architecture, don't use architecture. So they are pushing us aside now because our law says that we are using design and doing what we do. Are you getting it? So we are looking up to that. In fact, my boss and I were having a discussion the last time, and he said we have to even look at the word development. Now they are not even using architecture, engineering, or whatever. They are just using development. Unfortunately for us, we are looking at the review of LUSPA, Land Use and Special Planning Authority Act, which is what is used at the assemblies to pass permits. I think architecture is used, the word architecture comes only twice or something. Meanwhile, we are doing all the designs. And then they are using the word development, developer, development, that kind of thing. It's coming from her. So we are trying to protest against all this. But we have to do our own homework very well. If we are not available and other people are playing our role, then they are not seeing the role of the architect very well. So the word design, a construction firm is going to hide in there and be doing what you are saying. Be doing architectural work. Some of them end up engaging probationers who hide in there forever. They don't want to come out and do the professional exams and come out as professional architect, especially when the pay is good. Yeah. And of course, why not? It's pay, eh? But please come out. Yeah. Are we okay? Right. Okay. So we have 2 more questions.
Please, I would like to ask about the public policy and research.
Pardon?
Public policy and research.
Public
Policy and
Yes,
research
yes.
aspect of
Yeah.
the ARC.
Yeah.
I wanted to know how the review is trying to incorporate the research, all the research work that comes from our institutions, because I'm currently an MPhil student.
Okay.
And then most of the
that's
work,
good.
most of the work that is going on, we are all trying to look at influencing policy for every kind
Exactly.
of research work. So how are we incorporating that into
Yeah.
the ARC?
Okay. So before we reach the stage we've reached, we had to present a position paper. The position paper kinds of talk about what we have done in the field, collected information, research or analyze or whatever stage, whatever information, feedback, whatever. And it has gone into the position paper, which was accepted and then gave the green light and supported the justification for the review of the act. But as I said, it's not a complete exercise. It's backwards and forwards. And so it's going to come again, but you may want to come to the council. Let us know what you have, and then we can capture it going forward where it is relevant. Yeah, thank you. Yes.
I want to add up to the guy in front there, what he said.
Okay.
Say you are an architect, a registered architect, and you are being employed by a firm, could be a construction firm, an electrical engineer firm, whatever. Now that you are an architect, that you've been employed by that company, can the company now use your license to have the title as architectural architect?
No. No.
Or because you are part of that company, can the
No,
company bid for
that's where we are
projects?
having the conflict, because it is registered as a construction firm, not registered as an architectural firm. So it cannot operate as an architectural firm. I agree with you that they may hide in there and be doing some architectural practices, but it's not the right thing. I want you to acknowledge the presence of the board chairman. He has just stepped out. Okay, so that is it. They hide in there, but seriously, it's not supposed to be. Yeah. So, okay. Just don't find yourself in a tight situation like that. But in terms of real estate, they employ architects, and they are not stating that they are architectural firms. They state they are real estate developers. The onus lies on us and on you, the architect. On the architect, you have to be a registered architect. You need to be a professional to belong in there, to practice what you are practicing. Because if within that firm, there's no senior professional architect, then we have a problem. Because once you are a probationer, you must always be working under a professional architect. You get the picture? But if you are a professional architect working in there, we don't have a problem. We expect that you'll be in good standing. We expect most of the time, some real estate developers go in for the probationers because they know how they can manipulate sometimes. But the good ones go for professional architect, and that we don't have a problem with. Okay. Yes. Yes.
So I wanted to find out if ALC seeks to collaborate more with the institutions, like the tertiary institutions, to find out what are some of the good research topics that are being brought by the students, so that they can find out ways of improving and moving forward in this fast-paced world.
Okay, so if you look at one of the slides, we stated that we visit schools of architecture. Particularly, we are engaged with juries, and I must say we have had very interesting inputs. In recent times, I think we even captured one of the best students online to explain to public or something like that as to what architecture is all about. And that's one thing we have had as a strategic plan in the past to be visible. And how do we become visible is to engage with clients. Some people don't even know what architecture is about. Some don't even they have never even seen the word before. They haven't come across the word before. You go to schools and you ask them what they want to become. They want to become police, they want to become doctors, blah, blah, blah. Few, hardly. No one even mentions architecture. So now we are engaging as much as possible to be visible. So the school architecture, what they do, and for the fact that projects are taken from communities, etc., we are even encouraging that during the presentations, juries, we bring back some of the community leaders to be part of. All these things are just.
Okay, so in the quest to fill in the blank spaces or get answers to the questions that we have with the Act, do you have any scholarships or sponsorships for people who want to venture into these areas to research?
Okay. The council itself, as you know, as I answered one of your colleagues, hasn't got money, but we facilitate. So you do your homework. Sometimes it's just a matter of a letter. And when we are able to do the right rapport, I know a couple of them. I even had opportunity to sign for some 2 people, just a letter to confirm that this is possible, this person is this person, and they can benefit from that. Yeah. Sometimes we also get job opportunities that come through from the ministry. Mostly is very high level on the structure of administration. For instance, in the UN secretary, whatever, to this international organization or that. Sometimes they come and they are a bit late because they have to pass through Jubilee down and then ministry, and then when they come, it's almost some few days. But there are opportunities. Thank you, and I wish you well. Yeah. Who is the class prefect? Me?
your name once again? So do you have a platform? Do you have a WhatsApp page?